Happy Sunday, light seekers, brand new light workers. I haven't decided what I am going to call our community yet, but I am so excited that I have 16 subscribers. Whoever you guys are, send me a little comment. Let me know who you are and why you're here if you're comfortable with that, because I am well aware that this stuff that I'm talking about is kind of woo woo. It's kind of really out there, really strange, but it makes sense to me. It makes sense to friends that I have, and we talk about these things. And so, building a community of like minds who um, want to talk about energy, the various dimensions, how we're navigating this massive shift is really important. And I'm going to get into why that's so important with today's message, which I want to keep brief because I can go on. So, I want to talk about the old energy, the old 3D energy versus the new 4D, 5D energy, and what it feels like to transition through that and what you have to do. So, the overarching question for today is, what are light workers doing? What are we doing? First off, we're holding higher degrees of light. We're holding more light than people who are not doing this work, people who haven't made this transition, who are not quite yet fully aware to the journey that all human beings are making right now. So it's not just the light workers, but the light workers are like on the front lines of this human journey where we're moving from a physical state, a physical 3D, three dimensional state, to a more high vibrating, fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional spiritual state. So that's what we're doing. We're on the leading edge of it. Some people are more advanced than others. Because I don't know who all the light workers are. I don't know where I would place myself even on the spectrum. But what I know for sure is that I'm working with energy, that I've always worked with energy, but now it's becoming much more clear to me how to work with this energy. And that's what I want to share with everyone today. So, old energy versus new energy. That's what's going on right now. We've got a lot of old energy just completely breaking down, crumbling, collapsing right now, and that's a little bit painful. So let's get into that. Why is it a little bit painful? It's a little bit painful because first off, it requires that you clear out a lot of the dark, dense 3D energy within yourself. And this energy gets lodged in your body through various traumas just from living a life in a 3D reality, which almost all of us have, depending upon, when you were born, you've been in that 3D energy, a lot longer than some others. So, this transition from the 3D to the 4D, 5D structures has been ongoing, I would say, probably since the 1960s. The baby boomers were the ones who really first started to kick off that higher vibrating energy when they were all about the love and the peace. So, we've been making the transition for a while, but around 2012, it started to get really intense. 3D just started to really, really crumble. I want to say that I started on my awakening journey in 1999. So I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in the 70s, and around when I got into my 30s, I started to really just feel like the world around me, the way that it was presented, something was off with it. That there was just something more, something to break through, something that I needed to be doing that that I wasn't doing, living your very typical 3D life, which I did all the very basic traditional 3D stuff that you're supposed to do. Get educated, go to college, get a professional job, get a house in the suburbs, get married, have kids. I've done all of that very traditional 3D stuff. But when I was about in my 30s, I was like, something about this is not really resonating with me as, the purpose. Like that's not it. Like there's more. There's something more that I'm not seeing and others around me aren't seeing and I'm not feeling. So that was when I started to get into all of these various spiritual studies. So I have been on a spiritual journey since 1999. So it's been a long time. It's been about 20 years. And in those 20 years, I've picked up a whole lot of different tools. I'm a really big fan of meditation and especially mindful meditation, which I've talked about in some of my earlier videos. But I've also had to do a whole lot of clearing out of dense energy because I came from a background of a lot of heavy trauma, a lot of serious, heavy childhood trauma. Childhood where there was a lot of violence in my house, a lot of abuse, a lot of physical, a lot of emotional abuse in my house. When I began my journey, I began to, part of which was writing a memoir, The Way Through Lessons Learned on Life, Love, and the Journey. And a part of that, writing that memoir, and I would teach it because I taught for many years as an adjunct professor at Northern Virginia Community College. So part of that journey was teaching bits and pieces of my memoir to my students. And I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was teaching my students how to do was how to clear out that dark, dense 3D energy. And I did it for myself when I was writing this memoir because I had to. I had so much dark 3D dense energy inside myself. If I knew that if I did not clear it out, it was going to kill me. And I didn't want that to happen. So I started my clearing really early on. Like I said, in 1990, I started the process of trying to look into my past where there was all this violence and all this trauma and start to begin to clear it out. And been doing that for a long, long time. So that is what we have to do in order to clear out a lot of this old 3D energy and help and the human collective to ground in the new. So we we have to, and this is just really coming up for a lot of people right now. So how the clearing is going to come up for you is in challenges within your family structures, challenges that you, if you've had some long-standing dysfunctional patterns with certain family members, you have to clear it. Um, these patterns can like most stuff starts in the family, but these patterns will emanate into other areas of your life, your employment. They will emanate into your friendships, just whatever the patterns, the dysfunctional patterns that got established early on, until you clear them, they continue. So you have to figure out what your patterns are, and you have to clear them out. So the best and easiest way to clear out dense 3D energy is forgiveness. And I know that's a tough one for a lot of people, but unfortunately, that's the, or fortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunately, that's the way that you do it. And trust, I have had to forgive a lot of really difficult stuff, and I write about that in my memoir. Just I have a father who was who he's still alive, so he had bipolar disorder, and that was a part of his abusiveness within you know our family structure. Was that he this was in the 80s, so he wasn't, the treatment for it wasn't the best. So he's struggling with this mental illness, and in that mental illness, he was just really abusive. So when I was 13, my father wrote all this craziness all over my bedroom walls. And I mean all over, like just like this wall behind me, this whole entire wall was covered with things like die, devil, demon, bitch, die. And I mean, it was floor to ceiling. I'm 13 years old. It really freaked me out um, because, I didn't do anything to deserve that. And I couldn't make sense of it. Like people would always say, well, he's mentally ill. You have to understand that it wasn't about you. That didn't make any sense to me at 13. And there was a whole lot of other stuff that happened prior to that, but for me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was so angry. Was so angry about that for so long. Like it took me 20 years to get past that whole thing with my father, and I was holding that in my body as just so much density. So I started to unravel that density, to transmute it, is what I would call it, change it into a lighter, um, positive energy that could leave my body when I wrote and I taught my memoir. So I'm very familiar with what it takes to clear a lot of really heavy, dense, dark energy. And back when I was doing it, it took a while. So I started in 1999, and I was like clearing that energy all the way through like 2012, 2013, 2014. Um, I had cleared that all out, and that felt really good to be able to, because it was hung up in me for a long time. So to be able to clear that out and heal from it and have a much better relationship with my father, that was awesome. But it's like when you have that much dense energy, it has infiltrated into all other kind of areas in your life. So even though you might clear the major one, you're still going to have to clear so much other stuff that's related to all these other areas um, that have been impacted by that density within you. So even though you clear the real major thing that could be hanging you up, you still might have to go back and clear a lot of other stuff. Stuff will keep, like 3D is tricky. It knows what your buttons are, and it's going to come back and find ways to push those buttons, those fear buttons, over and over and over again in a lot of different ways. So you have to learn how to recognize the patterns, and you have to learn how to clear. For me, I studied A Course in Miracles for many, many years, and I highly recommend that if you are struggling with density, or you're struggling with trauma that was caused to you by someone and you're just really having a hard time forgiving that. A Course in Miracles is a text that can help you. The Four Agreements is a text that can help you. So A Course in Miracles is like really cerebral and really difficult. The Four Agreements is very, very similar kind of stuff, but it's a lot easier. It's a lot shorter book. It's a lot easier, and it is basically teaching you the same principles, which is how to um, let go of all that 3D density that we're holding on to. Because at the end of the day, it's all an illusion. It's all like mind games that is trying to keep you in lower, fearful vibrations, and that's where you don't want to stay. So for with regard to clearing out your own 3D densities, how do you do that? Okay. Um, what you need to do is you need to really identify who you have these issues with. And, I understand that it's really difficult sometimes, but you have to be honest. You have to identify, I've got this dysfunctional pattern with, these people. And then you find a way to, at a minimum, energetically start clearing them out. So when I say energetically, I mean you may not be able to actually physically go to this person and say, hey, you know, we've had these problems in our relationship for this amount of time. I like to talk about it. I like to, forgive you. And I said this to someone that I was having these kind of patterns with. I want to forgive you, and I hope that you can forgive me. And that's how you clear it out. It's not, I understand that it's not easy, because you may have to be forgiving something like extreme violence that has been waged against you. You may have to forgive someone stealing from you. You may have to forgive deep betrayals. You may have to forgive just hurtful, abusive language, things that have held you back. And I understand that it's not easy because we have, when we tap into those vibrations, we can get caught up in those cycles of pain, and it's painful and it's frustrating, and it's not so simple as just saying, well, oh, I forgive that. It's there has to you have to really work on your own vibration in order to find a way out of it. And what really helps is trying to come from a place of compassion and love, even when you think about these people. Because what happens when we get hurt by that is all we think about is that this person hurt me, and I'm so angry about that. And if you think about that, you're never going to get beyond that hurdle. So, what the better thing to do is to think about what happened to this person that put them in this state that they want to hurt people. So I think I spoke in one of my videos about how in 2018 I had this incredible, like, you will get tested. So I told you I had all that stuff with my father from childhood, and that was like in the 80s, and I was angry about it for so long. And I had to clear it in like the earlier part of the 2000s, and I did a lot of work with just clearing that out. So here's a crazy thing. In 2018, my brother, um, and this just came from out of the blue. I had no idea that, you know, he would ever do anything like this. In 2018, my brother does the exact same thing as my father, except it's worse. Like he had a breakdown, a mental breakdown, and he completely destroyed my house. He wrote all he you would not believe it was so much worse than what my father did. And it took me exactly back to that dense place where I had been in childhood. And so it was like a spiritual test. It was like, okay, you know what? You said you've cleared this. Have you really cleared it? And it was so hard. Like I was so angry. Like I wanted to just kill my brother. I really did. And I knew that, but I also knew that I didn't, because I had done all this spiritual work, and I was like, no, you do not want to go back there. You do not want to go back there, and you don't want to um, be in that space again, that really dark, dense, angry space. And so I was going back and forth from really, really dark, dense, heavy, 3D, angry, like murderous rage, angry space, and then going to 4D, the 4D bridge that I have learned how to cultivate, where I'm like, nope, nope, I know that's not the way. I'm going to be peaceful in the face of all of this, extreme 3D density. And that was difficult. Quite honestly, that was difficult because I did waver back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I cannot say that, I stayed for sure um, in that 4D peaceful space. I was wavering back and forth. There are times when I would go into 3D and I just really, really want to hurt them. Then I would think, no, that's not really what you want to do. It was a mixed bag. It was a mixed bag. And then after that, because I did so much 3D stuff in dealing with that, so I was dealing with that. For example, it was such an outrageous situation that I contacted the police. I got a restraining order against him, and I pressed charges. And I was very conflicted about that because I was like, I that is all very 3D stuff. And I was like, do I really want to go that route? At that time, I wasn't strong enough in my spiritual convictions to be like, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to pray about this and meditate about this and vibrate out of this very dense 3D situation. Um, so I did it half and half. Sometimes I was doing the higher vibrating and was able to really turn things around really quickly. Other times, not so much. So what happened to me as a result of that is that I got really, really depressed because I was like, you're supposed to be vibrating at this higher level, but you're not. So, what's up with that? Um, so I had to work through it. I had to clear out that density. I did this writing program where I wrote about that situation. And I ended up getting on stage and doing a poem about that whole experience. And that was my way of clearing out all of that density that was just trying to clear. Like it was all there within me. It had been so dark and so dense because there was so much trauma in my childhood that um, it came up again to clear, and that's what everybody's going through right now. Everybody on the planet is having to clear out so much density related to trauma and abuse and just the darker, denser part of the experiences of being human. So we're clearing this out because we don't want to do this anymore. We don't want to play in these 3D structures of physicality where abuse is possible, even. Because, when we're in 5D, we're going to be completely energetic. We're not going to be physical. So it's not going to be possible to be violent against anyone. You cannot, harm energy that's not solid. It's not possible. So, so when you're on the 4D bridge, though, you're kind of in that in between state where you're not completely physical, but you're not completely energetic either. So, you know, everybody right now, I think, is concerned for their 3D physicality, your basic things like your general safety, because as things start to crumble, that's a question that people have. Can I be safe when there's the rioting in the streets? Can I be safe when there's not enough food to go around or enough money to go around? These are things that everybody's concerned about during this time of uncertainty. So my response to that is when you are vibrating at a higher frequency, when you're in those 4D realms, even though you're still physical, you don't really have those same concerns because your vibration is not going to allow you to inhabit that fear, scarcity, lack paradigm or programming. You're not going to be. It's not going to be a resonance for you. So, in order for the 3D fear paradigms and programs not to be a match for you, you got to clear out all that density. So, that's what I want to talk about right now. How do you do it? Um, you can do exactly what I did. You start by thinking of identifying, knowing what it was that is causing you to hold this density within your vibration. So, you have to be somewhat self aware. I have anger and frustration about these kinds of relationships. And you can just do that. You can just start writing about it, getting it all out on the page is the first step. And once you get it all out, you start to work with that energy. You start to transmute that energy. You start to say, I'm not going to participate in this dysfunction anymore. And you teach yourself how to bypass the dysfunction and you practice. I have had dysfunctional relationships with almost everyone in my nuclear family from childhood because there was so much dysfunction going on in that household. So me and my sister battled for years and years and years, just back and forth. And one day, um, we were at a family event. It was a funeral, and it was really tense. And she walks up to we had been fighting for like a year, and so she walks up to me at this funeral, and she looks like she's going to say something to me. And I said to her, I'm not going to argue with you because I was just exhausted of it. And I didn't have the strength, quite honestly. I was sick. I write about this in my memoir. I was sick, and I was like, I cannot do this with you. And I was surprised because she just was like, okay. And I was like, wow, maybe it was just that easy all along to be like, nope, I'm not going to do it with you. It really is that easy. you just have to say nope. Now, people like their patterns. So when you first start saying nope, everybody's not going to respond like my sister, but apparently she was tired too. And we have grown so much since then. Like we used to just be like arch enemies. Now we're best friends. So that just goes to show how powerful clearing out the density can be. Um, everybody is not going to just be like, nope. When you try to change up the patterns, you get so much resistance. So, right before the thing with my brother, and as a matter of fact, the thing with my brother is related to me trying to change patterns within my family structure. So, before that event happened in 2017, I had this birthday party, this huge birthday party for my mother, and my siblings all had issues with this because, like I said, our family is very dysfunctional. So there was just so much dysfunction around me doing this thing of having this birthday party. So many people wanted, so many my siblings were just really resisting this. It was crazy. There's so much resistance that I had to power through. And like, so this brother who did this to my house, I am the oldest of five. So I have three brothers and one sister. So the one brother, he just didn't think that I should do this. He's like, no, I don't like her. Fuck her. Screw her. No, we're not doing this. And he tried to derail it so many times. Both of my brothers, actually, all of them. As a matter of fact, all three of my brothers were just in rare form the whole time. And I was like telling my husband, I'm like, I cannot believe just all of the pain and grief and drama I'm going through just trying to throw this woman a 70th birthday party. It's ridiculous. And he said to me, well, you didn't think that those structures were just going to change, did you? You guys have been in this dysfunctional pattern for a long time. You guys don't come together. You don't, um, this is not the thing that you do. You don't have these kind of celebrations. So, yeah, you're going to get a lot of resistance. And but the thing is, once you make it clear to people, well, this is who I am, this is where I stand, I'm going to do this thing, you can either support me or not. And that was a conversation I had to have with all my siblings. They do get clear on, well, the situation has changed. And it takes some people longer than others, and you have to be more forceful with some than others, like my brother, who I had all those issues with. He is now very clear on the fact that, well, that's where she stands, and she's not going to change, and I can't, force her to come around to my way of thinking about it. Um, they when you set your boundaries and you establish this is where I am with that, people, they have to change. They have to accept that and they have to change. But know that you are going to get a lot of resistance and a lot of trying to pull you back into the old patterns, um, from everyone that you encounter. Everyone that you encounter, and it's very, very challenging to go through. And I understand that. But this is where a lot of people are right now. So if you're in that space where you're like, I can't do these dysfunctional patterns with people anymore. Understand that a lot of people are going through that right now. A lot of people are feeling that right now. And the task for you is to hold strong, really stand there in your light and your truth and be like, no, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm here and to hold the light, to spread the light. I'm a light worker, and this is my truth. So that's the task for us. And you know, it's all part of the journey. It's all part of this transition that we're going through right now. So knowing that you're not alone, I think really helps. So I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions for me about clearing out 3D densities, leave them below. I'm so thankful that somebody is out there listening, and I'll talk to you later. Love ya. Emily, your everyday light worker. Bye bye.